Dudes, what is happening? This is Trent, and today I'm coming at you with some cover layout tips. First of all, if you follow my channel, you know that I recently I've been doing some short novels. Recently I finished The Beast of Tuxa. This is an illustrated novel. There's like 20 illustrations in there. Anyway, that's a free download over there on my Gumroad channel. But enough about that. Let's talk about the new hotness. The new hotness is I'm doing a new book called The Secrets of Kung Fulio. And I wanted to kind of do a little bit of a breakdown of my process of putting together a cover like this. I went through a few different iterations and I tried a lot of different things in thumbnails. So when I'm doing my thumbnails, a lot of times what I'll do is just draw them on one sheet. I'll kind of like sketch out roughly the dimensions of the cover. I never spend more than like 2 or 3 minutes on a little thumbnail sketch of a concept for a cover before I make any kind of decision. I just try everything. I thought about trying something that was like a very iconic kind of a Metal Gear kind of a cover where you're just looking straight on at the character. But I also realized that doesn't really say much. I mean, it can be simple and iconic, but it's like those generic video game box art covers where you just got the characters back facing. I feel like that's just a little too generic for what this book is. I thought I'd play up maybe the carrot idea, but again, like nothing was really working. So what I did was I went back to my good old friend Google, and I started just doing some research on some of my favorite anime box art covers and comic book covers, and just taking a look at what kind of composition and scale of characters could I try. I'm really just looking to be influenced with new routines, new patterns, new layouts, new focal points that I might be inspired from these in their designs. Nothing in the details, just the overall impact of an image. Because everything in my earlier thumbnails was just feeling like it was just way too big in the frame. And I want to fit a lot more stuff in there, like a movie poster, just more going on. And what I realized was I wanted to get some key elements. There's some key elements of the story here, and I wanted to make a cover that made you wonder about these characters while also simultaneously informing you a little bit about what kind of stuff you're going to find within the book. Because if you have a cover that doesn't communicate the same tone and feel of the interior of the book, you're going to have problems because the reader is going to feel really disappointed with what they're reading. The interior needs to deliver on the promise that the cover presents. So since I've written most of the book, I basically just made a list in my mind of what are the key components, what are the key mysteries that I need to try to capture, what are the most interesting looking characters, what kind of like implies that tone. I really felt like I have to get that carrot in there because he uses this as a weapon, and I wanted to kind of show that it's not just this heavy-handed, like serious, navel-gazing, introspective thing. It's going to have some silly kind of kung fu action. So I'm going to drop it to real time here and evaluate this, because at this point I had felt like I really got a good layout. I had gotten a good thumbnail that I wanted to use, but there were a few things that I wanted to point out about why I felt that way. So for one, in my mind, I'm sort of imagining that it'll crop something like this, and the actual image is going to end up being taller, and all this is going to get cut out. So let's just go ahead and crop that so we can get a clearer idea of what it's going to look like. Now, this over here is Dokkan, and Dokkan is a Toad Warrior, and I don't yet have a design for him yet, so I'm going to be designing him on the cover, which is not something that you should be doing ever. The thing that is really working well is the central element of the character. Having him positioned perfectly center in the middle like this really showcases that he's the main character. This is going to be our protagonist. This will also really stand out nicely in the thumbnail. If you were to silhouette it out, so you've got like this, if you were to shrink it down really small, let's shrink it down really small to a thumbnail, you would see that you've basically got this kind of a shape going off across the whole image. And that's beneficial because it means you're going to get an immediate read off of it. We can have some interesting elements over here, although Dokkan is probably a little bit too far over to the left. Having these little tentacles coming off of the sides is good for breaking up that silhouette. And then having this carrot sticking out, it gives you an immediate read on what things are. As long as the values back here don't go too dark, you'll notice that everything in the foreground gets pretty dark. The contrast values in the foreground get pretty dark, but the contrast values, like the blackest black back here, is only this value, but the blackest black in the front is like pretty strong almost 100% black. I also have a problem with this little guy back here breaking the flow. There is a flow to this page, and if you notice, one of the things that I liked about it was actually this. Your eye kind of does this number throughout the image, and I really like that because it tells the story. You've got this very subtle kind of ancient Twilight monk he's almost vomiting out like a dragon head who's about to eat a fish, which just sort of symbolizes this kind of hierarchy of the universe, which is a very interesting kind of a concept. I probably should have done something that's a little bit more spiral-like, maybe even as a symbol of life, or because the monks are all about that. But it has a flow to it, and these tentacle things really kind of support that flow. This tentacle kind of pulls things back up to turn your attention towards what's going on with the central element down the middle. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to do the three, at minimum, 3-tone thumbnails and sketch those out before you put a lot of work into doing your drawing. At this point, I'm only about 30 or 40 minutes into this drawing. All right, let's jump back to the time lapse. After I've committed to my layout, I'm pretty confident about how much detail I've got going on. I'm pretty confident about where everything's positioned for the most part. I've got to work out the Dokkan design a little bit, but I feel really confident about Mao himself. He looks appropriately aged, and also not too stylistically, he matches the style of the book and the style that I've been drawing him in lately. I love sketching out my cover designs or illustrations in Sketchbook Pro using the oil brush, but I end up dropping everything into Photoshop for manipulation. And transform tools and working with text is just so much easier in Photoshop. And you'll notice like I drop that right tentacle down just to make it so it's not too much of a mirror of what's going on the left side. And I also started to darken in that foreground a little bit more and really begin to dig into that background. I was beginning to see a little bit more clearly where things were going, that the monks in the background were just like a ghosted phantoms. Obviously, to draw a better toad, good idea is to do a little bit of Google reference. In fact, as he increased in size, I've written him to be about like 4 feet tall. So he's got to be much bigger. And toads generally, after doing a little research, toads are a much fatter, whiter type of body type. So a little bit of reference just for the shape of the head, and give him the spear that he uses in the fight scene. There is a little bit of a tangent here. You can see between the tentacle and his spear, and I'm aware of it, and I didn't even get a chance to fix it. But the thing that you find when you're doing artwork is that sometimes you, especially if you're doing like YouTube videos of it later or evaluations of it later, you find 1,000,001 things that you wish that you could fix because it's infinite. There's 1,000,001 things I could keep working on this piece forever and ever, and it would never really ever be done. So if you feel that way, if you're looking at your own drawings and you're like, man, I just wish this part was better, or oh man, I could fix that part, you got to know that the rest of your life, like that's all part of the journey, man. You're going to be feeling that with every drawing and every painting that you do throughout your whole career. And that's a good thing because it means that you're paying attention. And then you just apply that to the next one. You keep it sort of checkboxed in the back of your mind, and you try to not get lazy about it. So at this point in the drawing, it's starting to look like the composition's all in place. I tried an idea where I was going to put Master Clue, a character from the story, over in the corner there. But again, everything up in the top half of the image is facing left, so I wanted to keep it that way. I tried moving the logo up to the top, but I felt like it pulled away too much. It was better, because of the rest of the composition, it was better to keep everything sort of aligned down the middle. And for adding color, I started a linear light layer, and then a combination of linear light layer, a multiply layer, and a gradient map layer, which I've done videos on of all of those elsewhere on my channel, so I won't dig into them. But that's kind of how I ended up coloring the whole thing. And in fact, I spent the majority of the time doing all of the line art and the layout and the planning and the character design for Dokkan and all that fun stuff. And the coloring came together very quickly right at the end. And if you wanted to watch the full, almost real-time video of this, I have that over on my Gumroad channel. It's in the box set of tutorials, volume 4. The Secrets of Kung Fulio isn't done yet. I'm putting the final touches on it. It should be done, at least the written version of it should be done in the next month or so. And you'll be able to pick that up for free on my Gumroad channel and when it's done. If you would like to learn any of my other techniques, you can check out any of my other Photoshop cheats or Sketchbook Pro tutorials. I have just a boatload of stuff over there, including my brushes and things like that. If not, and you just like the freebies, I sure love having you around, so please remember to subscribe and click that little bell button. And dudes, until next time, I'll catch y'all mañana, bon. And ciao, baby. Oh, yeah.